Hi, and welcome to Random Roger's Big Picture for the week of September 9th. Special, oh snap, there's going to be a recession edition. In the comments on Friday, I indicated that I would go over kind of what parts of the market might make sense to favor if we are in fact going to have a recession. First up, are we going to have a recession? Obviously, I don't know. Most cycles do end with a recession. I would expect that there would be. But if I'm wrong, that's okay. I'm not rooting for a recession. It just makes sense to me that it's a long in the tooth economic cycle of expansion. Now it's ending. Nothing out of the ordinary about that. No keen insight, no analysis you couldn't do yourself. Cycles end, and when they end, it usually means recession. As far as what parts of the market, I made up a list. I'll go over each of the big 10 S&P 500 sectors one by one and just kind of weigh in on them quickly. First, financials. You get mixed things from depending on who you talk to. I'm underweight the group. Within what I have, and I've been underweight for ages, within what I have, most of it is foreign. The foreign, percentage-wise, has gone down just as much, or similar amount anyway, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, depending on the name. But the thing that's important is I believe that there is less fundamental linkage to the problems we're having here. If that's true, well, that's good. If that is not true, or if I'm wrong about that, being underweight is still going to be the more important thing. Even if I'm right about it, being underweight has been more important than picking the right stocks within the group or whatever. I'm inclined to want to stay underweight for a while yet. We'll see when I make a change, but for now, I think we're a long way from wanting to be equal weight or overweight. Let's let the yield curve normalize first. Healthcare. Generally, the health stuff that I own did pretty well on Friday. I imagine most health stuff did pretty well on Friday. So from that standpoint, one day means nothing. But if you look back at history, healthcare does tend to do better. The idea, and you've heard this before, no matter what's going on in the economy or the world, you're going to take your heart pills, your blood pressure medication, on and on and on. That's an old argument, but it stands up. It works. I see no reason why this time would be different for the healthcare sector. I believe I'm equal weight now. I may add one more name. It just depends. If everything else in the portfolio goes down a lot, then I don't really need to add, because just by virtue of them treading water, I've got a bigger weight, if you know what I'm saying there. Next up, industrials. Okay, industrials. That's a hot potato during a recession. If you own a few stocks that are in the industrial sector, and even if you're not overweight, just a normal equal weight allocation, let's say you own 3 stocks, the chances that one of them is going to be down something like 35%, pretty good. That's how industrial stocks tend to behave. They get crushed. The thing is, you don't want to have zero weight, and I think possibly, but we'll see, defense industry could hold up a little better than that. But the one name that I own that I think is a candidate for really getting crushed is Caterpillar. I had a full position in Caterpillar. I cut it in half in the spring. I think it was May, but it's in the archives. I disclosed doing it. But in the spring of 2006, I sold half the position at 74, then went down to 60. It went up way above where I sold it, then it's come back down. I don't know that I'm likely to sell anymore. I really do have quite an underweight position relative to how much I have in one stock. But something like that, as an example, to me seems like a candidate to get crushed. Take a look at the industrials you have. If you were going to lighten up in the group, or in your portfolio, an industrial name is probably a good one. I could be wrong about Caterpillar. It may quintuple from here, or maybe I'll get a private equity buyout. But in all seriousness, industrial stocks, and if you have a couple of them or a few of them, this will happen to at least one, they tend to get crushed. This repeats over and over. There's nothing out of the ordinary about it. It just happens. If you can't stomach it, okay, well, you may want to make a change, but that is totally normal. Next up, energy. Energy, usually not a good place to be. I think the thing that's going on in the world and what's behind this boom tells me that I probably don't want to lighten up. I have exposure to oil sands for a lot of clients. I don't want to lose that. That's how I gain access to Norway. I don't want to lose that. I just think that there, the fundamentals, maybe that is different this time. We'll see. But I'm only equal weight, give or take a couple of ticks, so I don't feel the need to reduce. If I was really overweight, then maybe I would want to. Consumer discretionaries. That's a real bad place to hang out. It's been having a bad year. I've got one stock that's a widespread holding in the group, Nike. It's done pretty well. It's kind of treading water in here. Not too shabby. Maybe it's getting a back-to-school kick. Maybe. But that is not an area that I really want to be heavy in at all. Really, I'm quite underweight in that group. Again, it's very normal. Late in the economic cycle, people are less willing to buy new TVs and washing machines. Harley Davidson's trading on Friday, perfect example of that. Staples is a great place based on past recessions to be. Cigarettes, booze, Nilla wafers, ketchup, diapers, Kleenex, all of that sort of stuff. Similar to heart pills, you're going to continue to buy your smokes and your Nilla wafers and what have you. That usually is a pretty good place to be. Again, the names that I have, I would say have been doing fairly well relative to what's been going on lately. Hopefully that continues. Tech, you'll get mixed opinions here. Tech tends to be early cycle. Some parts of it, I should say, like semiconductors. I've got semiconductor exposure. It's not really hurting me because it's not that big of an exposure. I am inclined to want to keep that. And the reason for that is when the economy turns and the stock market turns, again, we're making an assumption that there is a recession, semiconductors tend to be a very early cycle play. And instead of my trying to game it and just figuring that all of technology is going to do crappy, which maybe I'm going to be wrong about that, when it turns, I would expect semiconductors to provide some leadership coming out of there. Materials. Materials should not do well, but given what's going on in the world outside of the country, I'm inclined to want to hold on to that group as well. Utilities and telecom, I'm running out of time here. There's a time limit on Google, so I'll be quick. Utilities and telecom, where I'm exposed here is mostly about yield. Telecom, I don't have equipment. I have yield. From that standpoint, I'm inclined to, let's see if this is important. It's not important. From that standpoint, I'm inclined to want to keep those sectors right where they are. It's pretty small weights, but I'm adding yield and I'm reducing volatility the way that I'm exposed to those groups. Lastly, things like currency. If the Fed starts lowering rates, then that's good for other currencies, bad for the US dollar. These are things that you know about. I have small positions in the Swedish krona for some folks, the Australian dollar for some folks, and for a few folks, both. Things like foreign bonds. Lately, for some clients, I've been buying individual government bonds from foreign countries. I probably would increase that a little bit. Foreign bond funds. Probably would have exposure there as well. The whole thing is going to be about reducing volatility from a bigger macro, reducing volatility and adding yield. That is, a pretty good way to ride out the storm. If that means selling some things, then sell some things. If that means adding some double shorts, which is something that I'm more inclined to want to do now that they exist, then add double shorts. But bigger picture, if you're reducing volatility, however it is you do that, and you're adding yield, that's what I'm going to be trying to do anyway. How about that? Have a great weekend.